Steven Spielberg's 1975 classic Jaws taught us exactly why we should be afraid to go in the water. The great white shark. The apex predators of the sea, great whites can reach up to 20 feet long. And like most sharks, they're not very choosy about what they eat. They won't necessarily go out of their way to snack on humans, but they won't go out of their way not to either. And if you happen to come face to face with one, you may very well expire from pure fright before it ever gets the chance to sink its teeth into you. But in prehistoric times, there were predators in the sea that made the great white look like a shrimp. Ancient whales, enormous in size and sporting actual teeth, appeared in the oceans during the Miocene and Pliocene eras, but even they were no match for the mother of all sharks. Its fossils were thought by our ancestors to belong to actual dragons, and had they not gone extinct, the world's oceans would be a very different place. Here are 10 things you may not know about the Megalodon, one of the most terrifying animals the world has ever seen. As popularized by the hit 2018 adventure film starring Jason Statham, Megalodon is often affectionately known as the Meg for short, but its full name is even longer than its common one, and also rather revealing. Its scientific name is Carcharocles megalodon, which translates to big tooth, which is about as dead-on appropriate as it gets, as we'll see a little later in the video. Strangely enough, they're not the only aquatic creatures to be associated with the name Megalodon. The shark's Latin moniker is not a genus name, but a species name, and there did exist a species of mollusks whose genus was named similarly. Yes, mollusks. Hard-shelled, snail-like creatures. The Megalodon genus patrolled the ocean floors and died out sometime in the Jurassic period. Of course, being slightly less terrifying than the biggest shark that ever lived, nobody's making Jason Statham movies about them. As previously mentioned, when our ancestors found Megalodon fossils, they had no idea what they were seeing, but they did have a lot of opinions. In Malta, fossilized Megalodon teeth were known as tongue stones, and some, including Roman naturalist and army commander Pliny the Elder, believed that they fell spontaneously from the sky during eclipses. Amazingly, beliefs like these persisted for centuries, until 1666, when one man made a connection that would practically give birth to the modern field of geology. His name was Nicola Steno, and he was a physician to the High Court of Florence, Italy. He was given the task of dissecting the head of a regular old shark, and noticed the close similarity between its teeth and the mysterious tongue stones. Steno was a bit puzzled as to how sharks' teeth found their way into rocks, which led him on a path toward geology and the examination of how rock layers are formed. His foundational work in the field blazed a path for all who followed, and today Steno is known as the father of stratigraphy, which is the study of rock layering and analysis of archaeological remains. So we've impressed upon you that the Meg was terrifyingly huge, but just how huge was it? First, for the sake of comparison, let's take a look at the average sizes of some of today's largest aquatic predators. You may not necessarily think of them as being ferocious, but sea lions are among the top 4 largest predators roaming the oceans today, measuring up to 11 feet long and weighing up to 2,500 pounds. Similarly, leopard seals might look mighty cute, but they're about the same size as sea lions and sport powerful jaws lined with razor-sharp teeth. Then, of course, there's the aforementioned great white shark, a beast which can grow up to 20 feet long, weigh up to 2,500 pounds, and swim nearly 45 miles per hour. But even the great white fears the aptly named killer whale, which can be up to 10 feet longer and weigh an astonishing 6 tons. Now consider the Megalodon, which can grow up to 70 feet long, over twice the length of the killer whale, and weigh over 60 tons. For the closest size comparison found in the ocean today, we can look at the sperm whale, which can weigh about the same but usually tops out at about 40 feet long. The Meg's size and power were certainly a prehistoric force to be reckoned with, but of more concern for potential prey were its teeth, which were literally the size of daggers, big daggers. Our knowledge of the Meg's anatomy is due largely to intensive study of its teeth, as the bodies of sharks are made mostly from cartilage and therefore do not fossilize easily. Even the most dispassionate scientists must get a slight chill down the spine when working with Megalodon teeth, because just one of them is scary enough without imagining rows of them, 5 rows to be exact, containing a total of 276 teeth. Much has been made of the eye-popping size of the great white's teeth, which reach a maximum of about 3 inches in length. But since the Meg was over twice the great white's size, you may guess that its teeth were over twice as long. And you'd be right. The average length of the fossils which have been found is about 7 inches, while the longest specimen on record is even a ½ inch longer than that. Set into the Meg's powerful jaws, these chompers were easily capable of puncturing the thickest of skin and breaking the toughest of bones. And if you'd like to see one in person for yourself, you probably don't even have to go to a museum, because they're kind of everywhere. Like all sharks, the Meg didn't keep the same mouthful of teeth for its entire life. They lived only to hunt, and all of that hunting meant that its teeth could easily become worn or damaged, or break off completely. This, coupled with the fact that its teeth fossilized far more easily than any other part of its body, means that Megalodon tooth fossils are quite common, and sometimes you don't even have to dig very deep. In 2017, a young boy on vacation in Florida found a 5-inch specimen while playing in a stream, and that's far from the only time amateur fossil hunters have stumbled across such finds. Of course, modestly sized and broken specimens are much more common than full-size intact ones, but if you happen to come across one of those larger specimens out in the wild, then you're in luck. Full-size 7-inchers can be and have been sold to collectors for upwards of $50,000, and the more well-preserved the better. So keep your eyes peeled the next time you're indulging in a little R&R on the coast. That smooth, shiny thing half buried in the sand might be something a little more exciting than your average seashell. Those fossilized teeth tend to come in a large variety of colors, textures, and sizes, and it's not just their place in the fossil record which determines these variances. Fossils can be found in different climates and wildly varying ecosystems all over the world, because Megalodon wasn't exactly territorial, unless you consider the entire planet to be its territory, which is actually not unreasonable. According to the fossil record, the Meg had what biologists call a cosmopolitan distribution, which is a fancy way of saying that they were likely to be found in every ocean on Earth during their 20-million-year reign as king of the seas. Since they had no natural predators, their proliferation across the globe isn't exactly surprising, and indeed their eventual extinction had almost as profound an impact on their habitat as their presence did, as we'll see shortly. It stands to reason that such a massive, powerful animal would require a lot of energy to sustain itself, and scientists have estimated that the Meg may have had to eat up to a ton of food every day. Of course, by food we mean other animals, and as far as Megalodon was concerned, the bigger the meal, the better. Larger marine mammals, such as the early relatives of manatees and sea lions, would have been a regular part of the Meg's menu. But fossil evidence suggests strongly that when it was time for a truly satisfying meal, Megalodon had a clear preference: whales. Fossilized whale bones have been excavated which show clear evidence of bite marks. Very, very large bite marks, of the type that only the Meg could have created. And fossilized Megalodon teeth have even been found in the immediate vicinity of fossilized whale carcasses. Today, the killer whale, or orca, is the ultimate apex predator of the sea. But had they been around during the reign of Megalodon, the great shark would have thought of them less as killers and more as nutritious and satisfying breakfast buffets. As we've established, there were virtually no species in the sea during the reign of the Meg that weren't fair game for its mighty appetite. And one of the most interesting aspects of the fossil records concerning the great shark has to do with what happened after Megalodon went extinct. Once the Meg was no longer around to eat every other animal in its sights, many marine populations exploded, suggesting that Megalodon was not just keeping these populations in check, but may have actually been hindering the proliferation and evolution of marine life, from whales to turtles, and everything in between. Examples of this are far too many to list here, but to cite just one, consider the baleen whale. During the reign of the Meg, the baleen and its relatives rarely exceeded about 30 feet in length. But absent its most vicious natural predator, the baleen quickly began to, well, balloon. Today, animals in the same genus include the blue whale, which at over 100 feet long and weighing upwards of 180 tons is far and away the largest animal ever known to have existed. We know that Megalodon has been extinct for about 2.5 million years, but when it comes to pinning down a cause for their extinction, we have more guesses than actual answers. The end of the Meg's reign did roughly coincide with a period of global cooling which culminated in the Ice Age, but this alone likely would not have been enough to kill off the entire species. It is hypothesized, however, that a significant contributing factor was the slimming of the ranks of whale species, which this cooling period had a hand in. Many of Megalodon's primary food sources became more scarce during this period, and it could also be that surviving species due to natural selection would have been stronger, faster swimmers, and therefore more elusive prey. Increased competition from new species, such as larger sperm whales and the great white shark, may have also played a part. Of course, some enthusiasts cling to the possibility that the Meg never really died out, and that the great fish still thrive somewhere in the ocean's cold depths. A thrilling idea, but perhaps fortunately there's absolutely no evidence to support it. Contrary to popular belief, Megalodon is not directly related to the great white. They diverged from a common ancestor millions of years ago, making them about as closely related as humans are to chimpanzees. But while the great white is the terror of the seas today, there was simply no match for the Meg in the prehistoric oceans. Consider one simple fact. Based on the size and structure of its jaws and teeth, computer simulations have estimated that Megalodon had a bite force of about 24,000 to 40,000 pounds. For comparison, this is roughly 6 to 10 times that of the great white. But we won't even stop there. It's almost 2 to 3 3 times more powerful than the bite force of Tyrannosaurus rex, one of the most fearsome animals to ever walk the earth. Megalodon was large and strong enough to literally bite a whale in half, or say a submarine. It's a good thing they're not around anymore, because despite what Hollywood thinks, not even Jason Statham would dare to mess with the Meg.